Today already, stock-listed companies with over 500 employees have to report yearly on non-financial topics such as environmental impact, HR policies, diversity topics, etc. Now, adding this information from the company with their financial report, they actually give a view to investors what the impact of the company is on environment and also what efforts they are making in order to reduce this impact. That way they can actually give investors a view on the sustainability efforts of the company in order to show the investors what they are doing. The investors are taking this information as well more and more to make business decisions for themselves, because also they are focusing more and more on sustainability in the choices of investments. Now, this has been the case since 2018, and over the time it's become clear that the reporting as it is done now, the non-financial reporting directive, which has been implemented since 2018, that it's actually not strong enough and not clear enough for the investors in order to make real decisions. So with this information that it's at the moment not strong enough, the European Union has taken the decision to take a next step in this non-financial reporting, and they've come up with the CSRD reporting that is more well known and a broad topic this day about how companies should show their sustainability efforts. So CSRD reporting is in that case actually just a stronger continuation of what already existed, but not only a continuation for the big companies, it's also going to trickle down to the smaller companies. So from 2025, it's going to be implemented for companies, the big stock-listed companies already, to report over the year 2024 with this new directive. And then it's going to trickle down year after year. So from 2026, medium companies will have to, or medium-sized companies will have to start reporting over 2025 numbers. And in 2027, even SMEs, more than 10 employees and a couple of million in revenue, will also have to start reporting on these non-financial numbers. With this new directive, companies will have to start reporting on ESG-related topics, so environment, social and governance. Specifically within environment, there's 5 topics they're going to be worrying about, which is climate change, pollution, water usage, biodiversity impact, and also resource use and circularity in general. So 5 topics that are going to be important for the companies to report on in the environmental topic. Now, within climate change itself, it's going to be important for the companies not only to show the impact they are having on the environment, so to do calculations in terms of their carbon footprint, but also to show how they will reduce it in line with the 1.5 degree target agreed on with the Paris Agreement. So more specifically, a company will have to take efforts in calculating their carbon footprint, putting targets in place in order to follow the scientific consensus of keeping the climate change to 1.5 degrees, and also how they are actually going to reduce this climate impact. Now, it can be easy for a company to say, yes, we want to keep global warming to 1.5 degrees, because that is the safe threshold for humanity to live in the longer term. But you have to understand this also has a very strong implication on the activities of the company itself. So how can you actually then stay below the 1.5 degrees threshold? Well, for this there is a lot of bodies that give you guidance, and one of the stronger ones and one of the more clear ones, more generally recognized one, is the Science Based Targets initiative. Now, not only do they give you the possibility to show your efforts to them so that you can get listed after very strong checks on their website, but they also just give the general company a very good guidance on what they have to do in order to reduce their impact, or what the targets have to be for the company. In general, for most companies, it implies that on the short term, so within the next 10 years, they will have to reduce their their carbon emissions by 40 to 50%. And in the longer term, by 2050, that they have to adhere to a net zero world, which means that they have to reduce their emissions by 90% in the next 40 years, or even in the next 30 years. And for this last 10% of emissions that any company will have, they will also have to absorb them out of the atmosphere. Now, for a lot of companies, it will be very difficult to do that within their own organization, and that's where carbon credits will come in on the longer term as well, in order to show that the company is absorbing these final emissions, or at least they are outsourcing the possibility to absorb the emissions from the atmosphere to another climate project, or another company that's able to do this. Now, already today there's a big market for carbon credits, but most carbon credits can actually be split in two categories. The ones that reduce carbon emissions elsewhere, or the ones that actually absorb carbon emissions. Both of them show already today that you're making an extra investment as a company to do something about climate change to reduce global emissions. But it's only the second part, the real absorption, that will also on the long term for net zero commitments show that you are actually doing the right thing in compensating your own remaining emissions with an amount of carbon credits that show your investment in a project that actually absorbs CO2 out of the atmosphere. So this means that this market for the second group, the real absorption projects, will keep growing in the future, and also the related costs will probably start increasing as well. That's why it's already important or interesting to today already start investing in these projects that can actually capture CO2 out of the atmosphere, in order to prepare on the long term for the regulations that will follow in order to become net zero. Now, you can wait for regulations to guide you and wait until 2050 until you invest in climate projects and carbon credits, or you can already take action now. And it's becoming more and more clear every year what the impacts of climate change are and how they will affect us as well. So in the first place, you can reduce the emissions of your company, but in a second place, it will and can also help to invest in climate projects to reduce global emissions worldwide.